Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again. My name is The Advocate, and today we are advocates for Will Blood and Fire be released before the winds of winter? And today I've got my guest with me, the Grease Goblins.
Hi guys, we're back. We're talking all things Winds of Winter, all the George R.R. Martin stuff.
Dude, hey man, it's it's what we do. It's what we love
We
doing. It's
do what
great.
we do.
I mean, we'd love to speak about a finished Winds of Winter book, but you know.
That'd be fantastic.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while. It's January is kind of starting to get to an end here, the first month of 2025, and we have not received a yearly update on what progress George has made. Allegedly, if there was any progress in 2024 for the Winds of Winter, we really haven't seen much progress at all from George's Not a Blog about the Winds of Winter. So, because of his lack of updates, we're kind of still guesstimating that George still is at the 1100 page mark for the Winds of Winter. However, we're also getting a little bit worried because ever since George made that 1100 page update for the Winds of Winter, George has mentioned that he might be currently working on some other projects that are not the Winds of Winter. And I don't know about you, Grease, but it's got me a little scared. So, what are your current thoughts about George's current Winds progress or potential lack thereof, and him potentially working on other projects that are not the Winds of Winter at this time?
JC, what are you saying? You're not interested when he posts things about the in the Lost Lands that he's working on, or the Miami Science Fiction Film Festival on? Well, as we're recording it today, so that's where he is. Um, it's not great. I mean, we've been radio silence for like a good couple years now. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
something came out about his like, he's almost done or what. And I don't know. It's just same old kind of situation. I feel like, but I don't know.
Yeah, all the updates we've received from George since that update have really just been like non-tangible, like, oh, I'm working on it, or like, oh, yeah, rewriting an earlier chapter. Very vague updates that don't really give us an insight as to how far along he's come since then.
Put it this way. Put it this way. We've gotten more into season 3 and season 4 of House of the Dragon leaks than we have about Winds of Winter and anything happening in it from George R. Martin in the last year.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Think about that.
yeah, man. I mean, it's all the things that have happened in the past 14 years since the release of A Dance with Dragons, like things that we didn't even know, things that didn't even exist, you know, House of the Dragon seasons 1, 2, and Dune 3, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms TV show. Yeah, man. So agrees. Like based on the lack of updates we've received from George about the Winds of Winter, and based on the, I mean, not increasing amounts, but based on sporadic mentions that have become slightly less sporadic over time about George working on the sequel to Fire and Blood, which we thought was going to be Fire and Blood 2, but George is adamant about calling Blood and Fire for some reason. Yep, Grease has got the book right there. Do you
I'm gonna
think?
get it out.
Yeah, yeah. Show us that bad boy. Show us that beauty. Oh, look at that hardcover
Okay.
too.
Okay, guys. Fire and Blood. What? Why is it? Why are these switched in the next one, George? It sounds stupid. Okay, that's my spiel. Continue, JC.
Yeah, I think anything to avoid putting a 2 on the cover, he's all for it. But based on the amount of updates, which there haven't been too many, but there have been enough to the point that it's kind of gotten me worried, Grease. Do you think there is a possibility that Fire and Blood 2 or Blood and Fire would potentially be released before the Winds of Winter?
I think it's very possible. As much as people don't want to hear this, the publishers want material. If
Yeah.
George has it done, it's gonna get released. Unfortunately, Fire and Blood Part 2, much easier to write than The Winds of Winter. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
So, could I see it happening? Yes. I think it's actually very likely it could happen. I know people not be the happiest about that. I would love it because I love Fire and Blood, and so I would love to just get more. If we're not gonna get Winds of Winter, I'd love to just get more of whatever he wants to give us. But, yeah, JC, how would you feel about Fire and Blood Part 2 and if it comes out earlier than Winds of Winter?
Yeah. if you would have asked me this like a couple of years ago, I would have been like, ah, like, so, like, what the hell, George? Like, working on something else that's not, the wins and getting that out before wins when you promised that you were not going to work on any other projects, no more TV show adaptations, no more stage plays, no other books that had nothing to do with wins. And now you're doing all those things instead of writing wins. Like, what the hell? But now I think it's been so long since we've gotten anything new from George, even just like not even related to the Song of Ice and Fire main series, but also just anything new in general. Because Fire and Blood was released in 2018. That was 7 years ago. We've gone so long without any sort of Westerosi source material. So by this point, even if we did get Fire and Blood, which again would not be my top choice, Fire and Blood Part 2 would not be my top choice for, things that I would want to read next instead of The Winds of Winter, I wouldn't be too disappointed because I know that we would be getting new material. We would be getting, you know, something fresh, something that was coming directly from George. And even though it's, not a Song of Ice and Fire, it takes a lot of thought to write, these POV characters and their nuances and their story. Whereas Fire and Blood is just like a dry history textbook about like this happened and then this happened and here you go. Even though it's not as complex as the Song of Ice and Fire series, I would still be very interested in reading Fire and Blood Part 2. So,
We get some Blackfire lore. That's the
yes.
big one.
Yeah, I'd be very excited to read about the first Blackfire Rebellion. I'd be very excited to read about Summerhall if George hopefully delves into that. I don't know if he will because it would spoil, Dunk Egg. But yeah, there'd be so much new material with A Blood and Fire that I wouldn't be. I mean, I would be disappointed, but I wouldn't be as disappointed as I would be if it was just, another Wild Cards book or something, some other project.
What are you talking about? You're out here talking about like we've got no Westeros stuff. We had a cookbook. What are you talking about? We've had multiple
That's
cookbooks.
that's true. There was a cookbook. There was a Rise of the Dragon book, which was essentially just a even more shortened version of Fire and Blood in picture book format. Oh boy.
Here's what I'll say. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I thought about this while you were speaking. It's not something I had thought about before, but everybody talked about, House of the Dragon. He hated its, whatever because of his posts and stuff. We've covered that in the past. People thought, oh, maybe that would help him write Winds of Winter. He wants to get his own story done, all that stuff. Same argument as when Game of Thrones ended. What if it has a different outcome? Because Fire and Blood doesn't exist to House of the Dragon, this book does not exist. Maybe that gets him to actually start writing Fire and Blood Part 2 even more. I know that's what people don't want to hear. I know people are going to be angry at me saying that, but there's a possibility that because of how much they neglected his characters and they've just gone a completely different route, maybe that fuels the flame to start
Yeah.
writing more Fire and Blood stuff. But yeah, I don't know, JC, if you agree with that or not.
No, I totally agree. That's very true. The obviously we had that one blog post that he then deleted the same day about George's complaints about blood and cheese, but the implication was that George R. R. Martin had a lot more to say about House of the
Yeah.
Dragon that he didn't get to because of probably some HBO non-disclosure agreements. But yes, probably George not being too happy with House of the Dragon season 2 has kind of lit a fire under his butt that has kind of motivated him to write more written material pertaining to, the events that happened, during the Targaryen rule prior to Robert's rebellion.
I knew it.
What's that?
JC, you didn't say that at all, but when you watch this recording, you're gonna have a fun time.
Okay, I'm excited. But
Just say
essentially,
a Night of the Seven Kingdoms took a tumble.
uh so, speaking of that too, it's like I can also see that when the United of the Seven Kingdoms TV show adaptation airs later this year in 2025, I could also see George R. R. Martin being motivated to be like, "Oh wow, like, the first season, hopefully was a great first season. I'm also now motivated to write another Dunk and Egg novella, the She Wolves of Winterfell." Also, in addition to Fire and Blood Part 2, because House of the Dragon season 3 is coming up, and I want to show up Ryan Condal forever doing this to my baby. So, you know, Sea Wolves of Winterfell, Blood and Fire, and The Winds of Winter kind of, despite him claiming multiple times that it is his top priority, in his head and in his heart, it kind of falls by the wayside because he's trying to prove a point to viewers of the TV show and trying to prove a point to Ryan Condal and Sarah Hess and the writers of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms probably as well, that like this is how you write a story, not whatever is being, currently airing on Max TV.
Hey, the rumors are Allison might be going to YT, so or ET, whatever, however you pronounce it. But hey, maybe we get some more stories there too. Okay, man. If you're a fan watching this video, we're sorry. We're giving you bad news. He's gonna write Fire and Blood Part 2 first, and then he's gonna go and he's gonna write another a novella.
Oh man.
Could you imagine the fan reaction to that? Let's say that this is the correct timeline that we're in right now, and what we just said is correct. My boy George is gonna have to delete all of his socials. Even though I love it that we're gonna get more material, if he's getting like already bombarded by "Where's Winds of Winter," gonna be even worse.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he already doesn't even post on Twitter and Facebook. It's probably some one of his minions that's posting for him, and he has his comments turned off on his not a blog. But yeah, I imagine people will run into him in real life and be like, "You promised us wins. Where's wins?" And be like, yeah, sorry." Um,
Unfortunate.
yeah, realistically, and I hate to say it. I mean, I hate to say it, but at the same time, I wouldn't be super, super bummed as you. Just like you, Chris. I wouldn't be as bummed. Neither of us would be as bummed as we would be if we weren't getting just anything new at all. But I think realistically, let's say 5 years from now, it's the year 2030, and we still haven't gotten wins. I think that it's more realistic that within the next 5 years, we get a Blood and Fire book, and maybe even potentially a new Duncan Egg novella, and still no Winds of Winter.
Agreed.
And
Fortunately.
yeah, it's unfortunate and it's sad, but at least we would have, new material to read. We would have new things to talk about instead of just regurgitating the same old, like, when's the Winds of Winter coming out topic. And it just would be a lot of fun to have something new for the community to delve into.
My intrusive thoughts almost won there. I was gonna say something very controversial about a YouTuber on this space, but I'm gonna not do it. It's not my channel.
I appreciate that.
But
We'll talk off
but
camera
let's
about
just
that.
say but let's just say there's a lot of content out there about Winds of Winter.
Yeah,
That's it.
true, that's true. So I guess if this reality were to take place, where we would see a Blood and Fire or Fire and Blood Part 2 being released before the Winds of Winter, Grease, do you think that, and I think I already know the answer to this, but do you think Warner Brothers and the Max producers would be keen to create a TV show adaptation based on the Blood and Fire source material to kind of keep that, that Westerosi baby rolling?
It's already being set up. I can tell you right now, it's already being set up. It would be perfect. Now, I wanna preference this. I think the Westeros, space is in a bit of a interesting spot. I think A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms needs to do well.
Yeah,
If it does not do well, like, let's say the show, like, we think quality-wise is good, but it's something like maybe like Andor was for Star Wars, where it was something where people really like it, but there's not that many people that actually watched it type situation.
yeah,
Then you come to a situation where, again, House of the Dragon, I think, is already on the decline. I don't know what viewership will look like for season 3, but who knows in terms of what's going on there. Maybe we don't, start seeing things if some projects don't go as well. Hopefully, that's not the case, but I do think, like, it's leading up to a first Blackfire Rebellion show. I think that is the successor for when House of the Dragon finishes, because I think it's nice to have, like, you have your small kind of story with Dunk and Egg, and then on the other side of it, you have more of your grander story, what people are used to with Game of Thrones. So I think if we were going to get a first Blackfire Rebellion show, which I think is the most likely of all the things that we're going to see in Fire and Blood Part 2, not saying the other name, um, it would be that. And it makes sense given the fact that Duncan Egg is also then going to reference that and all that stuff. So likely maybe in the next like 5-ish years, maybe we would start hearing stuff about that. I don't think they're going to run 3 like Westeros shows at the same time. I think they're going to wait for one of those 2 to end, and then they would maybe do something like that. So, I mean, it would add up with our timeline. Fire and Blood being released in the next 5 years. So,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I agree on all your points. I do think that, I mean, HBO and Warner Brothers are pretty keen on getting another kind of Westerosi related show on their streaming service because, despite our complaints about the second season of House of the Dragon, I mean,
It did
viewership
well.
wise, I don't think it did as well as the first season, but
No,
it still did, millions and millions of people around the world watched, that show. And I'm sure, I mean, there probably will be less viewers that watch season 3, but there will still be a sizable amount of people that will watch season 3 to kind of keep that TV show going. So there's still very much interest in watching the TV show adaptation of these books. However, it is getting to a point that although, it kind of keeps us coming back, there's kind of less excitement than there was previously. When we first saw the trailer for the first season of House of the Dragon, obviously there was a lot of trepidation from a lot of fans because of how Game of Thrones ended. But, interest was there. There were a lot of people that wanted to watch House of the Dragon because we hadn't gotten anything. Game of Thrones was the largest show on television ever around the world.
Yep.
So, there were a lot of people who were interested in seeing how, that would be followed up in a second TV show. And, a lot of people did tune in for that first season and it did really, really well. And, people also tuned in for that second season. But there definitely is less excitement now. Now we have two shows under our belt. One that went downhill after like season 3 or 4, another one that's kind of going downhill as well went downhill during season 2. There is still excitement for a third TV show adaptation, which is the United of the Seven Kingdoms TV show, but I don't think it's quite as large as what it was heading into House of the Dragon season 1. And if there was going to be a fourth TV show somewhere down the line, a Blood and Fire TV show adaptation or a Aegon's Conquest TV show adaptation, there will also be just less interest going into that, diminishing returns with each new TV show that airs.
I agree. It's the trust level.
Yeah,
And this is the thing that worries me about Night of the Seven Kingdoms, even though I think it will be. I think it'll be good,
I think so too.
just because it's much easier. But the worry is, okay, Ryan Condal is still somebody heavily involved with the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. His name is attached to the show. It's not like we're going from completely different people from House of the Dragon to Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Now there are a lot of different people also involved in Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but there's still like that mix, you know. And so when you have that and you're like, okay, Game of Thrones, what it turned into, like you talked about, House of the Dragon, my interest level personally, now I'm more of a hardcore fan, but still my interest from you say like beginning of season 2 to now, it's not even like it's not comparable anymore. Like
Right, right.
some of these rumors coming out about House of the Dragon season 3, I'm just like, whatever. I mean, it's kind of what I expected. Like I don't have much trust anymore. Like the trust is gone, right? So it's like they could do some random stuff and it wouldn't surprise me like it would coming off of season 1 where I was like, wow, that was really good. I have higher expectations. There's that built trust level.
Yes.
And so going into Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think a Night of the Seven Kingdoms has a lot of pressure on it because it needs to rebuild some of that trust, especially if season 3 is not as good. So that's kind of why I look at future projects and I go, yeah, Night of the Seven Kingdoms doesn't get that trust back and say viewership wise, it doesn't do as well. And you have House of the Dragon continue their spiral down. I look at some of these other projects and it's for a company, it's when do these start becoming unprofitable? It's not when the quality is necessarily bad. It's when people start or stop coming in. And so that'll be interesting to look at because I think House of the Dragon season 3 will still have, like you talked about, good viewership probably, but
Yeah.
is it slowly declining? Is it sustaining? Like how is that viewership? I think the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I know by fans, by the community, it's more loved than I think Fire and Blood is by a lot. But I think for the general public, for your common audience, I think there will be less interest in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms than there would have been for House of the Dragon, maybe even season 3. So it'll be interesting to see how that balances out. I think that really will heavily impact the future of this space for that HBO is trying to build.
Yeah. We'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens, especially with this first season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Like yourself, I have faith that it's going to be a great, first season of a TV show. But I don't think, obviously quality, that's what we fans care most about. But obviously the CEOs, they care more about, viewership and how much money it's raking in. And if this is a quality show that doesn't see as high viewership as it did previously because of, declining interest in House of the Dragon after season 2, then yeah, it kind of leaves us a little bit bummed, even if it's a great, great show. Um, I think the best way to restore our trust is to make it a great, great show, and then House of the Dragon season 3 to hopefully be a better season than season 2, and that way, I think that would be the number one thing that would kind of propel viewer interest back into the A Song of Ice and Fire material is if season 3 of House of the Dragon was better than season 2, more so than a fantastic first season of The Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
I agree. I do think that that's a really big point, and I do think like House of Dragon season 3, I don't have any faith of in just because of George R. R. Martin's own comments. Like I don't know how you like I don't know how the creator of the story that you're telling from a book point of view, like a book fan point of view, it's gonna be hard to
Yeah.
like for me to go, okay, well, this guy's already seen what you have planned, and he had this bad of a reaction to it, like more than Game of Thrones, more than like I don't know. I mean, House of Dragon season 3, we'll get there when we get there. But hopefully, Night of the Seven Kingdoms is good. Maybe something that we could see in there would be an Aegon Conquest movie.
Yeah.
I know there's already been talks about a show of it, but I think a movie would work way better if we're just telling the conquest, not the door stuff in Dorne. I think that would work really well. They could maybe throw that in there. That could maybe get some interest back. I do think something that could really help with this is if you look at Disney, and yes, they're maybe not the best run company when it comes to maybe some of Star Wars specifically. Okay. But when you think about it, it's money speaks. Okay. They're going to go where money is. And the shows that make Disney money for Star Wars right now almost always are the ones that are involving main characters that everybody knows. Despite the quality of Kenobi, Boba Fett, those shows got people to
Skeleton.
watch because they wanted to, yeah, to view them. And so then when you have other shows that people don't necessarily have any attachment to and, aren't drawing people in, well, they're like, well, why should we make new stories that people don't know these characters because it's not what's making us money. It's taking these characters that we are already established and not doing them well, in my opinion, but it's what people want to see how their favorite characters are going to go. And so that's something that I worry about with not House of Dragon, but I do kind of with House of Dragon, but like Westeros style content? Do we just do stuff that's like, oh, it's dragons. People want to see dragons, and it's not necessarily about the quality of the stories anymore and things like that.
Yeah. And, one of the positive things about Fire and Blood and, hopefully Fire and Blood 2 is that we have a lot of source material for TV producers to pull from and hopefully ideally make a great TV show based off of whatever George has written. As you said, we have the Aegon's Conquest TV show, potentially in the makings. That's from Fire and Blood Part 1, Fire and Blood Part 2, Blackfire Rebellion, the first Blackfire Rebellion. So much other things that could be added to the Westerosi TV world that hopefully would be good. However, as you said, declining interest maybe will impede viewership for those TV shows. Will they even be good? We're not promised good TV anymore these days. So it's just a lot of stuff that's in the air. I don't know. I have faith that again the producers and writers for whatever TV show projects are coming up for these Westerosi TV shows have interest in keeping George R. R. Martin's vision for what he wanted for Fire and Blood and Fire and Blood Part 2 and whatever other A Song of Ice and Fire written material there is. I do think writers kind of have a general respect for will have a general respect for the source material, but as we saw, there's a lot of things that could go wrong and it could all go downhill, but guess we'll just have to wait and see.
One thing I want to point out, just for the future of shows, I've been doing some research on another project I'm doing, and I didn't notice this for House of the Dragon. I didn't realize like out of they had like 7 or 8 writers for the first season. The second season, only 3 of those came back for season 2. I didn't know that.
Hmm. Well, the
I
head writers
think
are still.
keeping yeah, the head writer is still there, but I mean like basically everybody else was gone.
Oh yeah,
And so I do think keeping a writing team together, especially when you have so many people that are, having these visions and crafting the story, very important. And so don't know if the writer strike affected that situation or what happened there, but it does seem interesting that there was a noticeable writing drop off in season 2. Don't know if that was part of it. I don't know if it was just different visions or whatever, but yeah.
yeah. It's ideal to keep kind of the same writing team. It's impossible because people get people interview and they get better paying jobs at different TV shows, so people kind of move back and forth between these different TV shows. But it would be ideal if we had the same writing crew stick with each season throughout a TV show, and that way, the original writers who have the best vision for what these characters are and where they're going kind of stick throughout that journey with the characters throughout the entire series. But Anyway,
Yeah, because then you start having different interpretations. Before, didn't mean to cut you off there, but you start
yeah, go
having
for it.
different interpretations of characters where, a certain writer maybe was attending this for this character, this journey of them, and then this person comes in and they thought, okay, this is what they were trying to do, but that isn't actually what they were trying to do at all. And so
Yeah,
you see that difference in storytelling.
yeah. Well, we kind of got a little bit off topic, but it's all related. It's all related to Blood
All
Fire
related.
and Fire and Blood Part 2 and, George R.R. Martin's written works. So in summary, I just Grease, just like you, I wouldn't be too disappointed if Blood and Fire was released before Wins. Yes, there would be disappointment, but it would not be the end of the world. I would still look forward to that book. I would still read that book, and we would dissect it, and it'd be great to have something new, similar to if a new Duncan Egg novella were to be released before Winds of Winter, which, given George's recent fire that's under his butt about how he didn't really like House of the Dragon season 2, and right now he's very excited for the new A Night of the Seven Kingdoms TV show, could potentially light a flame under his butt that would make him release those two books prior to Wins.
Agreed. Agreed. Maybe we would get more of this. The Blackfires.
Yes.
Not the second one, the third and the fourth Blackfire rebellions. Maybe the War of the Nine Penny Kings. Because we know nothing about basically any of those. We know some names. That's about it.
We'd actually get new merch based on those things that only have a couple paragraphs of text.
I could get a Blackfire thing of this because there's literally no Blackfire merch whatsoever. That was painted by somebody I know. Shout out to them.
Dude, looks good. Looks good. But anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Grease, thank you so much for joining me, man. Where can they find your channel?
They can go to the Grease Goblins. It's on screen.
Heck yeah.
I post mainly a Song of Ice and Fire stuff. I know JC dabbles in posting other book reviews and stuff, which is awesome. I'm just doing rereads. I'm just doing my casual stuff until we get some new stuff. But
Kind of
yeah.
holding the fort until that first season airs.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. I'll be done with my reread by the time Winds of Winter comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I dabble in a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, A Song of Ice and Fire is still my favorite series, so it's our passion. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, both on my channel and on the Grease's channel. Go and like all of his videos. Comment down below, all that YouTube engagement. We love you guys. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.